Hi everyone, thank you again for taking part in Blending into Standout, where we'll be talking about blends in an unorthodox way, in hopes that the insights given here will someday put some new and interesting flavors out there in the world. If you have questions or comments, I'm more than happy to chat, so feel free to drop a line or a comment at the end of the video. So, what defines a blend? Simply put, the aim of blending has two goals in mind: to create delicious flavor using at least two different complementary ingredients and to provide as much health benefit to the person drinking it as possible. Of course, one side can be more easily emphasized than the other. Think of a sweetened matcha latte versus a healthy but foul-tasting elixir from your local herb shop. Now ideally, the best outcome is a perfect balance of both that can be created reliably and repeatedly with consistent results. Now, it's easy to forget that when you've talked tea all the time, but a blend doesn't necessarily have to have tea in it for it to work. Like tea, tisanes can be plain or blended as well. You can use most anything grown in nature, barring any of the poisonous stuff, of course, to make a blend. Traditionally, you'll see herbs like jasmine, mint, rose, and ginger as a way to change the flavor of a blend into something more oriental, refreshing, or floral. And I want to use this moment to say that blending is a very underrated part of the culinary universe. With an almost infinite variation of ingredient combinations, it's practically begging to be experimented with. But to appreciate blends is to know their earliest origins in the English-speaking world. In the 1800s, one of the first recorded blends came from a Chinese lord to Earl Grey, as thanks for saving his son. The choice of bergamot orange was supposedly used to suit the local water of the Earl's residence, offsetting the lime in their heavy water. Lady Grey then served this tea to entertain her guests and loved it so much that she commissioned it out to be sold to the masses, and thus, Twinings was born. Once the tea was released onto the masses, people started figuring out that bergamot oil could easily mask a lower quality and cheap tasting tea, and, sad to say, blending turned into a labor of profit and not love. Thankfully, people who now drink tea have come to learn of their natural flavors and have developed a palate complex enough to see through this disguise of using flavor at the expense of the customer. So if you drink, or are currently drinking, Earl Grey while you're watching, then you, my friend, are reliving the historical birth of tea modification in every sip. Fast forward to today. Groceries are stocked to the brim with tea products from gigantic and well-known companies, taking over whole aisles, right alongside coffee as the #2 most consumed beverage in the US. But have you taken the time to walk through and look at what's available? Because everyone has their take on jasmine green, English breakfast, caffeine-free rooibos, peppermint, and chamomile. Only a small few break away, and none of them go beyond maybe adding one new ingredient and never as loose leaf. So few dare to venture out and shake things up, that it actually hurts the tea drinker demographic by robbing them of new experiences they never knew they could have. Speaking of demographics, I'm finding that the current trend is for people to develop into what I call tea purists, and their focus is on the details of terroir and single origin leaf, leaving blends behind as the remnants of what they were in the 1800s, a means to hide true taste and, in some extreme cases, mar the image of quality tea as something to be taken seriously like wine. Which is unfortunate, because in comparison to the rest of the world, the US is much bolder and daring when it comes to coming up with interesting flavors. We just need to put a little bit more TLC into it. While mastering plain teas from around the world as a sommelier is a skill in and of itself, the art of blending is nothing to be scoffed at either. Many ingredients hold amazing health benefits, such as fighting off inflammation and depression, and aren't normally found in American diets. When properly blended, add a great dimension of taste to what would be an otherwise plain drink. Thing is, it just requires a little bit of extra work, a little bit of more money, and the courage to try new things with the tenacity to be able to fail over and over before being able to perfect that new blend. Ingredients are more readily available now than they were hundreds of years ago when blends first made the scene. Wholesalers have made it easy to shop large catalogs of wares, and the world is now our oyster when it comes to picking flavors. Short of rare and difficult to procure materials like organic French vanilla sticks, saffron, or cardamom, it's much cheaper to experiment these days. And if an ingredient isn't quite hitting the spot, sprayable fragrances have also evolved to cover most tastes and smells imaginable. And I kid you not, if you wanted a pancake-scented tea or tisane, you can have it. Now, when thinking about the composition of a blend, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like color theory, flavor theory has also been invented, published, and used as the most basic building block of chefs and other culinary scientists around the globe. Just do a quick search on the flavor wheel, and you might find a couple books or pictures that show you the groupings of common things we sense when eating or smelling food. Things such as earthy, fruity, floral, gamey, or spicy might be some that you find. For readings, I highly recommend The Flavor Thesaurus by Nikki Segnan, The Flavor Matrix by James Bricione, and The Flavor Bible by Karen Page. Based on these, ingredients and scents can then be picked out and paired to achieve the effect that you're looking for. But I can hear it already. Enough with the history lessons and readings, just get on with it. And that's exactly what we shall do. Here, I have a couple of ingredients on hand that we can use. Sarsaparilla, the inspiration behind modern-day root beer. Licorice, not the kind with sugar and strawberry, unfortunately. Plain black tea. And goji berry, a health fad superfood you might have heard of a couple years ago. And your basic setup would look something like this. A teapot with a strainer, some cups, and hot water. And while it's tempting just to throw ingredients together and hope for the best, that's a surefire way to end up with a concoction that'll leave a bad taste in your mouth. That would make you feel pretty demotivated to continue experimenting. Think of the process much like how an engineer comes up with a new car design. You have to familiarize yourself with each individual piece before you can understand how it might work when combined together. Take the sarsaparilla and licorice, for instance. Since this is a video, I'll try to do my best to describe them, and you might want to mentally take note of how it's being described, because that builds your vocabulary for future blends that you might come up with. Sarsaparilla has a sort of medicinal smell, imparting notes of vanilla, caramel, and a hint of licorice for an overall complicated scent. Meanwhile, licorice root has a pungent and strong smell, with a bittersweet aftertaste. When used, they will quickly overpower any other ingredient in the blend. When used together, they'll vie for control and exponentially make the blend bitter and strong. So in our case, if the black teas are base, which is already astringent, then we'll want to add only a little of both of the sarsaparilla and licorice, but focus our attention on balancing it with the lightness of the goji berry. To start, for every tablespoon of black tea, add a quarter teaspoon or less of the licorice and sarsaparilla, and a half tablespoon of goji berry. The reason for this is that the goji berry doesn't give off too much flavor, but instead sucks the liquid up, restoring the berry back to its juicy state and taking a little edge off of the harshness. Pour the mixture into the teapot. Add your hot water and give it about 3 minutes to brew. You'll end up with a blend that tastes mostly like tea, but has 2 new layers of depth: the boldness of the sarsaparilla and licorice, and the fruity berry flavor of the goji, which gives your taste buds something to look forward to and savor as you're drinking. If it's too much, add some sweetener and offset the strength. Congrats! You just made a totally new and unheard of blend that you'll never find even at the most specialty of tea shops. Now, other than my attempt at trying to describe the smells before, there's plenty of other words at your disposal that helps paint the picture of what someone might be expecting before they try your creations. Try these next time. Light, a taste that's subtle and easy on the mouth. Fresh, for a pure and clean sense of smell. Bright, something lively and refreshing, like a palate cleanser. Clean, used for a singular taste that doesn't contain anything that might interfere. Sour, for acidic or tart tastes. Creamy, something rich or thick, yet still smooth. And zesty, when your blend is piquant and peppy, with a kick. Keep in mind, rarely does a blend taste as strong as it smells, so you shouldn't overplay it since the result might become underwhelming. And what better way to prove this than putting this blend to the test? So today we are graced with the company of the lovely Miss Stephen, who, although they drink tea, have never tried this particular tea before, is the ideal person to judge its qualities. Hi Jessie, thanks so much for taking part.
Hi Leo.
So
thanks for having me here.
No problem. So you've already got the samples, and what we have today is a black tea blend with goji berry and sarsaparilla and licorice root. So it's a little bit on the strong side, but there's enough going on where, hopefully your taste buds will kind of have something to look forward to. So again, no pressure, no wrong answers. When you're good, take a whiff, brew some, take a sip, and just kind of let us know your thoughts.
I actually didn't know what was in it before you just listed it now. So I'm like, oh, now what do I smell?
See, that's the fun of it.
It kind of is. I definitely smelled like a vanilla-y smell, but I don't know if that's vanilla or it's something sweet. I don't know if I'm the right one to distinguish that.
No vanilla in this one, so it's probably
There's something
sarsaparilla.
sweet though, and I'm not. Okay, since I'm not familiar with that one.
I mean, does it smell anything like root beer? A little?
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
fine. That's the sarsaparilla.
I think definitely in the bag too, it smelled more potent, and then it mellowed out. Am I free to sip it now?
Yeah, by all means.
I smell it.
It's like, does it linger? Does it leave a aftertaste? Just things like that.
It has like a watery aftertaste, like not bad watery, but like moist, not dry.
Okay.
Like it doesn't leave like that dry throat.
That black tea usually
I feel
does.
like sometimes, I was just gonna say, sometimes black tea is bitter, dry leaving, and it's not that. It definitely isn't as strong as it smells, but apparently that's normal for tea.
Yes.
And I do like that because it has a very strong smell. That I think it would be overwhelming if it tasted that strong. Yeah, you can get more flavors.
I mean, if you're drinking it, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I'm just trying to distinguish the flavors. I usually do cream up my black tea, so I do like this one not creamed because it tastes not bitter.
I mean, it'd be fun to try if you have cream on hand to put some
I
on.
do have cream in. I was prepared. I used to always drink it like British style with cream and sugar, and that was the only way I knew tea for a long time till like college. Then friends introduced tea and stuff to me. I might have over creamed it.
Don't tell anyone, but there may not be such a thing.
Such as over creaming.
Yes.
Like coffee. Which color do you drink your coffee?
I mean, I'm drinking this blend with you, and it's completely white. So.
That was about the color I just made mine.
Yes. Does it taste any better? Worse?
I almost liked it better without the cream, and I don't know if it's because I over-creamed it that it overpowered the flavor. Because now I can taste the cream, it didn't just calm it down.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I guess because I did too much.
That's okay.
Or maybe the tea wasn't strong enough if I brewed it for 3 minutes.
No, that's about the usual. So
Hopefully that was enough. Okay.
maybe it's just a characteristic of it where it can't hold up very much to a lot of cream.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's okay.
I
Okay.
added more tea to.
So I've got about 5 or 6 questions. If it's okay with you to kind of just shoot, just to see, after you've tried it now, to see, what it really means and how it really works. So, first one is, how does it make you feel? Does it impart any sort of like, I don't know, slight hint of refined, robust, classy, bitter, tart, like just kind of like, what does it do to you when you drink it?
It's definitely cozy.
Okay.
Because I usually only drink hot tea when it is colder outside, so I think that has an element of that coziness for me. Because it has some of the sweetness to it, I guess it's more dessert-like and a treat in that sense, but it's not too sweet to where I feel like I can't have it, as its own caffeine fix for the day.
Okay. Does it remind you of anything?
Oof.
If it doesn't, that's okay. It's some people.
Yeah, I was like,
associate-
I think it did when I smelled it, but I couldn't figure out what it was.
Okay.
When I opened the bag, I was very curious what it smelled like.
Okay.
But I couldn't think what it was triggering.
That's okay. Number 3, we essentially just answered with the whole cream, but if there's other things you might put into it, do you think it'd be better if it was slightly creamed, slightly sweetened?
I guess the sweet thing's a different factor because I could put some sugar and see, but to me, sometimes if you sweeten it already, it over sweetens it, and then that's its own distraction, I guess, for flavor. I just added some sugar, so I'll see if I like that. Now I'm sipping a creamed version and an non-creamed version just to go back and forth to help me make up my mind.
Oh, I mean, drink it however you're gonna go fast, right?
I think I usually do creamed if it's hot, but I think I overdid the cream on this flavor, and so now it tastes too much like the cream.
It's all right.
It is good sweet.
Okay.
I do like adding sweetener to teas though.
Me too. Me too.
It's always a sweet treat for me. 'Cause I'm always a coffee drinker in the morning, but in afternoon sometimes I do tea instead.
Drink to that.
It's my favorite is hot tea in the afternoon.
Okay, so these last 3 are going to be like theoretical, not so much about what you just experienced, but sort of what you would think of it after you've already tried. So sort of what's the way you would use this tea if you had a lot of it or you decided you really loved it? Like, and this might just be more of a personal question of, do you drink alone? Do you drink with friends? Would you serve, like, where would you serve this?
To me, it's definitely like an afternoon treat to look forward to because I think my morning coffee can always just be whatever. I'm desperate for that morning cup. But the afternoon one is where it's more of something special. So to me, it feels more special flavor-wise.
Okay.
So it would be more in the afternoon. I think I would enjoy it.
Okay.
I definitely would share it. I feel like it could be the daily flavor, just like any black tea. I usually do bagged tea, not loose leaf, but I feel like it could just be as simple as a daily routine tea.
Did you, and it doesn't matter what the answer is, but did you notice any difference between loose and bagged?
Loose leaf versus bagged?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Definitely loose leaf is more flavored. Like you can definitely taste the freshness of it.
The answer I was looking for, by the way. Yeah,
no, I know that's a bit like, and it's like switching from instant to regular coffee. It's like there's a difference.
Yes.
There's no arguing that the fresh stuff is better.
Okay. So if this somehow made it into a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, and you walked by it, it was probably reasonably priced, maybe a little bit on the higher end, but it was at least attractive, and the ingredient combinations were something totally different that doesn't look like you'd find in a normal aisle. Would you pick it up, and what factors would contribute to that, right?
I definitely would. I think because I'm not a big tea drinker, I don't know how to pick tea when I buy it. So it is based on like, have I sampled it? Then I definitely am like, ooh, I do like this. I would buy it. But had I just looked at the flavors in a store, I can't say that I would know that I want that tea. But in terms of what would encourage me to buy it, I guess, is I do look for unique things that look more like just not mainstream or more personalized small business type things, because I do try and support that when possible. Even if it is a little bit extra dollar-wise, it's to me worth it. So in that sense, that would help if it looked different than, the prepackaged Lipton and PG Tips and all that.
Well, bless you, Jesse, for supporting small business. Okay.
It's in my family. Business owners, gotta support them.
Okay, well, I guess as a spin-off to that question, what price point for something like this seems reasonable enough? Like, at what point would you just say this is ludicrous, or? I know these are the ones that are supposed to make you think. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Just because I don't know I guess I don't know the normal dollar rate right now or anything
the
for
typical
but
bags.
especially lately.
Typical bags at like Ralph's goes anywhere between, I don't know, $2.99 to the fancy Rishi matchas at like $8.99, $9.99.
Mm-hmm.
But some super specialty stuff can go up to like $15, $20.
A bag. I guess it would depend, because if it's, a special treat, then yeah, I don't mind the high-end price. But if it was gonna be like a daily drinker, I definitely would go with the cheaper options for that. Just because that's, I think, how my lifestyle is. I'm like, I don't need my daily item to be top price, but I don't mind treating myself to those things, I guess.
Nice.
And also knowing it's supporting a business that has, its own perks, but to an extent of what I'll actually enjoy every day.
Sure. If you drink too much of a good thing, it stops being good, right?
Yeah, and so that's, I think, after I answered one of the questions earlier about I could have it be a daily tea, I had to stop and like, well, actually, it would ruin it, so I probably wouldn't have it daily for that sense, but it has a friendly flavor without being overpowering of one flavor that could be daily, I guess.
Oof, then I did a good job.
Because yeah, I've had like caramel tea or things like that, and to me that would get old, having caramel tea every day. It's a very straightforward flavor, but this one was very nice blend.
Why, thank you. Okay. Last question, sort of our bonus question, but if this blend that you just tried was used in a dish, so say someone turned this into a meat marinade spice or soaked, I don't know, eggs in it or chicken or something in it, like do you think it would taste good just because of the fact it was tea?
I did not ever think of that, but I do think now that you mention it, I'm like, I could see that. I never would have guessed it as a marinade, but it does, I could see that flavor. I guess not like a red meat or anything. Something tells me that wouldn't, but I don't know. I've never made soaked tea eggs before, tea eggs, but I've had them before and I could see that flavor. But to me, the chicken kind of sticks out.
It's just to get you thinking of like, instead of drinking it, what would it taste like if you ate it, right?
Yeah, I could see like even little tea cake out of it, but I guess that's more on point with what tea is.
No, there's nothing wrong with tea infused cake with tea. You can never get enough.
Yeah, I could see it with food, but I'm not sure what other than what you listed. Like little tea cookies kind of thing. I'm definitely on the dessert side of it.
Okay.
But when you mentioned chicken, that sounds interesting.
Just throwing it out there, but no, it's as valid of an answer as any, so we're good. Okay, so we've beat this blend to death, essentially. I could just leave you to enjoy it now. But I don't know, any parting comments or anything before we wrap it up?
Nope, I'm gonna still be thinking about what foods can go with it.
Sorry,
know.
My bad.
I'm like, I'm not like a big cook or anything, but I do enjoy trying new recipes, and I'm like, I'm gonna think about this.
Tea it makes for really cool ingredients and a lot of other things. It's just, you don't really see it all too often.
Have quite thought of it.
Yeah, not very many people do.
I've seen people do like matcha flavored pancakes or matcha flavored cupcakes and cake is more common, I guess, for any of these, and cookies, but I haven't anything savory. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've cooked tea eggs, but
when the day this comes on Iron Chef is the day that we have fulfilled our duty, right?
I'll be watching that episode just so I can see what I missed. What didn't I think of?
No, it's okay. But okay, great. Thank you, Jesse.
And there you have it, folks. Some great opinions, and most importantly, the basis to begin refinement and improvement of your work. Now, ever notice if you really focus, make a small dish for one, that it looks and tastes amazing, but as soon as you start scaling it up for a family, it starts going down in quality, even though you just did the exact same thing? Well, it's no different here. If you find yourself coming up with larger batches for parties, or as a business for private labeling, or you're about to open up your own shop, you'll want to be careful. You won't be able to rely on winging it with the ingredient ratios, even if you understand their properties. The best advice I can give is to start planning out the amounts and timing of your ingredient purchases in a way that's scalable, and begin storing them away so that you're never finding yourself short when orders come in. Thankfully, blends have a great shelf life compared to many other perishable foods, but the challenge comes from finding space to store them, and the speed of which you can convert them into finished goods. Now with that great segue into logistics and production, before forking the dough for co-packing costs and machinery, consider investing in the following. Basic plastic storage containers, multi-pound bags, and restaurant-grade tools like heat sealers and scoops at your local restaurant supply shop. It'll eliminate all the times you have to stop and empty and clean between small batches, and you can then reserve specific ones for specific flavors, so that they don't accidentally mix and spoil the smell or taste. But our experiment was just one example, so who's to say what should or shouldn't go into a blend? Where does one start when they're on their own? How does someone even come up with something that tastes great? As a first step, start with sampling and engaging with tastes and sensations in the world around you. Stick your nose into that dish and take a deep whiff. Leave that piece of fruit in your mouth just a little longer than usual so you can really soak up the flavor. Then, start thinking of things that work well together. Peanut butter and chocolate, peaches and cream, apple cinnamon, or strawberries and bananas. Generations before you have come up with these and other surefire combinations using the same methods. So take it and run with it. Change up the ratios, substitute or add something. See how close you can get to that ideal flavor, and those skills will then help you build new and better things. And once you've mastered that, it's time to take a step even further into the unknown. This is my favorite topic to talk about, so I want to introduce to you the idea of blending with emotion and intention, taking tangible things and creating something intangible from it. Let's start at the top. With so many choices out there, it's easy to succumb to paralysis by analysis. Just how much would you be willing to spend on blindly purchasing ingredients? How much time and energy would it take to experiment and come up with something that people, including yourself, would like? The most basic place you can start will be with emotion. Imagine yourself feeling as happy as can be. Does a color or flavor pop into your mind? Maybe something like yellow? Maybe something yellow like a lemon? Maybe a pitcher of freshly squeezed, glistening lemonade on a sunny day. Science has easily paired emotions to things like color and taste, and there's no shame in making use of it in order to achieve a great blend. Now, one trick I've learned in my 5 years as a blender is to have an end goal in mind, and blend towards not just taste, but to the person behind the cup. How do I want to have them feel when they're drinking it? What kind of person would drink something like this? Are they bored with conventional flavors and just want to try something new? What's important to them, taste or benefit, or both? Blending with intention is to impart a mindset or feeling into another person through the medium of tea. Like music, you're orchestrating the ebb and flow of taste and effects that go through their mind, body, and soul as they go through their cup. Of course, anything worthwhile comes with its share of trial and errors. It's so easy to make mistakes at every step of the way, no matter how long you've been doing it. Here are some quick and dirty tips to watch out for. Try not to overload a blend with too many ingredients. Stick to about 4 at most. Remember that different ingredients in different blends have entirely different steeping times. Flavor might come out after about 3 minutes, but the drink can become too bitter if left for 5 or more. Now, unless you want to on purpose, avoid spraying essences after the blend has been created, as it will blanket the entire mixture in a single scent. Allow at least a day or so for ingredients to marinate and impart their flavors into each other. By consuming a blend immediately, some ingredients merely act as decoration. Surface area makes a huge difference. Finely chopped ingredients impart more flavor faster than big, solid chunks. We'll get into a little bit less tangible aspects here, but one other tool you can have in your toolkit for blend inspiration is something a lot of folks don't usually associate tea with, but works wonders when done right: stories. When you begin to describe tea as the thing that was on the tables of the most intellectual and influential people in history, it adds layers of weight and importance. Take my Crossbones blend, the one that turns heads and raises people's eyebrows every time I've described it. It's a black tea blend with shredded coconut, cinnamon, and doused in rum essence. With the symbolic skull and crossbones, it's easy to see the pirate motif in both design and ingredient choice. The story behind this one is also easy. Blackbeard just came from a successful raid on the high seas and hit rough and stormy waters, knocking his cargo of tea into satchels of cinnamon and coconut, while a stumbling crewmate's bottle of rum splashes over it. Now, without the means to sell it on the black market, he and the crew consumed it themselves, turning it into their drink of choice aboard their ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge. See how that adds life, personality, and color to the tea? You can imagine this taking place, and it makes you feel like, if you drank it, you'd be right there with Blackbeard and his crew. Another interest piquer is my Earl's Gone Wild blend, where I marry the two difficult nuances of coffee and tea into one, then tie it all together with the sweetness of maple and the heat of pumpkin spice. Here we go back in time to Earl Charles Grey, the famed Prime Minister who led the Reform Bill of 1832. In this story, the morning dew clung to the freshly trimmed grass as the Earl carefully took 10 paces forward, turned, and fired his pistol. His scandalous proposal to mix his Earl Grey tea with coffee, maple, and pumpkin had sent shockwaves through Parliament. But as the victor of the Dawn Duel, now no one would oppose his revolutionary reform. With just a little pinch of imagination and a riveting story, suddenly an unknown blend becomes something important and desired. These are but 2 of 6 signature flavors I've created, with the mindset of blending towards emotion and intention. And I hope I got the point across to where you too can also breathe life and color into your creations. But let's go back into reality here. If taken seriously enough, and if enough people become interested in the art of tea preparation, experimentation, and preservation, there will be hope for the next generation of society. A prerequisite of a civilized culture demands people with temperance and perseverance, and that's exactly what tea brings to the table in a way no other food can. But we have to first set the foundations and create the norms now, both for ourselves and for those around us. We have to start incorporating tea into daily life, using it as a means to sit down and share a pot between family and friends, if nothing to open conversation and find real, candid moments to talk to each other. If you have kids, family plays a huge role in their adoption of tea well into their adult life. And before we wrap up, there's 2 points I want to share. First, the beauty in blends is that it can be whatever you want it to be. A social tool, a kick in the pants source of caffeine, another way to hone your portfolio of crafts, or a special gift to someone you care for. Second is that without the flexibility that blends offer, tea might not be able to differentiate itself to go toe-to-toe with other beverages like coffee and specialty health drinks. The moral of our story is, more people need to blend in order for tea to stand out. And with that, I hope our time together inspires you to look at blends a bit differently, and to someday experiment with one of your own to come up with the next great tea of our time. Thanks, everyone.